Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will discuss more about Cold War and related with the theory liberalism. Today, me, Nurul Fatih binti Muslimin, with my other four friends, which is Deladia, Zainab, Shafika, and Zurina, will talk more about the topic. This is the subtopic that we will focus on today, which is first introduction, second factors or issue, third party involved in the war, fourth is suggestion, and the final one is conclusion.
The Cold War that started in 1947 and lasted in December 26, 1991 was a long-running conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union that began after the Hitler's Germany surrendered. After Nazi aggression against the USSR in 1941, the Soviet regime became a Western democracy's ally. However, in the post-war era, increasingly different opinions caused splits between those who had once been allies. The United States and the USSR progressively established their respective zone of influence, splitting the world into two opposed camps. As a result, the Cold War was not just a fight between the United States and the USSR, but a worldwide conflict that affected many countries, particularly those on the European continent. In fact, Europe, which divided into two blocks, became one of the main theaters of the war. From 1947 onwards, the two enemies engaged in a long strategic and ideological battle punctuated by the crises of various intensity, which they also used all available resources for intimidation and subversion. Although the two great powers never directly fought, however, they repeatedly brought the world to the verge of nuclear war on several occasions. The only effective way to avoid a military confrontation is by nuclear deterrence.
The first factor of the Cold War was the tensions at the end of the World War II. The Yalta Conference is viewed as a major event in the Cold War because it highlighted the divide between Stalin and the other two leaders. Neither side trusted the other, and Joseph Stalin was resentful of the other two, believing that they delayed the Normandy invasion and Allied invasion of Italy to cause the Soviet army to struggle alone against Nazi Germany. The Potsdam Conference is also viewed as a major event in the Cold War as well because it highlighted the divide between Stalin and the other two leaders, similar to the earlier Yalta Conference. As well, it is at the Potsdam Conference that Truman made Stalin aware of the American atomic weapons program, which is Manhattan Project, and that the Americans had developed the world's first atomic bomb. It was also at this conference that a deep divide was created between the United States and the Soviet Union specifically. Truman was incredibly suspicious of Stalin and his intentions, and Stalin felt a similar way towards Truman. In general terms, the seeds of the Cold War were planted at the Potsdam Conference. As such, many historians view the Yalta and Potsdam conferences as the start of the Cold War, since they highlighted the growing mistrust and tensions between Truman of the United States and Stalin of the Soviet Union. The second factor of the Cold War was the emergence of nuclear weapons. The United States had developed its atomic weaponry during the final years of the World War II through its secretive program called the Manhattan Project. With the atomic bombing of Japan, the United States had begun the era of nuclear weapons and the nuclear arms race. The third main factor of the Cold War was the ideological conflict that existed between the United States and Soviet Union. At the time, the Soviet Union was a communist nation that was based on the principles of collectivism or socialism, while the United States was a modern liberal democracy nation based primarily on the principles of individualism. This means that the Soviet Union was positioned on the far left side of the economic spectrum, while the United States was positioned on the right side. This difference in ideology was a major source of the conflict between the two nations because throughout the Cold War, the Soviet Union sought to expand communism to other regions, and the United States sought to stop it with its policy of containment. The final factor of the Cold War was the American fear of the spread of communism around the world. As stated before, there was a major ideological conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union at the outset of the Cold War. The United States, led by Harry S. Truman, feared that communism as an ideology will spread throughout Europe and the rest of the world. For example, after World War II, both Greece and Turkey were facing financial crisis due to their proximity to Soviet territory and the rise of communism in recent decades. It was feared that the two countries might fall into the Soviet sphere of influence and become communist.
Now, I will continue the next subtopic, which is about the party involved, or can say the main actor that involved in Cold War. So the first main actor that we will see is United States of America, or known as USA. So we are known that USA is the leader of a Western bloc that time after the World War II ended, and also they are the one who hold the liberal democratic. You can say that they are the main focus of the world of a liberal that time, and also they are the one creating NATO together with their allies, a few of the countries that time, and also in the one of a war that happened in Asia at the time, which is Korean War. They are the one who support South Korea in terms of military against North Korea, and also they are the one who try, you can say that, support the containment to stop the spread of communism. Also, NATO, or known as a North Atlantic Treaty Organizations, is a kind of military alliance established by the North Atlantic Treaty, or also called as Washington Treaty of April 4th, 1949, which sought, we can say, sought to create a counterweight to Soviet armies stationed in Central and Eastern Europe after the World War II ended. So it is an original members were Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, UK, or you can say not United Kingdom, and United States itself. So we can say that USA and their allies start to show that liberalism. We can if you can see in the previous slide that USA is you can say that USA is the country who hold the liberalism or liberty, because they believe that this theory, this is the way to define the right of humans, the freedoms, the justice that everyone's want in the country. Because we can concentrate liberalism as a modern democracy. Democracy means that everyone involved in the election, or rule of law, and also to protect the civil liberties. So this kind of freedoms give an opportunity for the citizen of the country itself to in such involve, or we can say have the connection, close connection with the government itself, and this is causing more and more country that time to realize that liberty. or liberalism is the only way to get connect with each other, to have a peaceful relationship with other country, with the citizen, with the global community itself. So because of that, because of the influence of USA that show that liberty is the only way, causing that the Western bloc to be fallen apart. And because of that, the communism started to be seen as not so good theory for the country itself. So because of that, many modern country nowadays, such as Norway, Switzerland, New Zealand, what else? Australia, Canada start to put liberalism in the center of the administration because they know it is a very give a very positive impact towards the development of the country itself. So we move to the next parties or the next actor that involved in the war in the Cold War, or we can say become the main focus on the Cold War itself, which is Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics, or known as USSR. So we know that USSR is opposite with US, United States of America, where they are the one who lead the Eastern Bloc after the alliance of Great Britain and US being formed, or can say that the NATO being created. So they are the one who hold the communism leadership and also form the Warsaw Pact in 1955 in response to NATO. So you can say that Warsaw Treaty Organization, or known as a Warsaw Pact, originally of the Soviet Union, okay, originally of the Soviet Union, and Albania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, and Romania, where we can say that Albania withdrew in 1968 from this organization. Also, East Germany did so in 1990. So you can say the treaty, which was renewed on April 26, 1985, provided for a unified military command and for the maintenance of a Soviet military units on the territories of the other participating states. So we can say that NATO and USSR have same focus, or same, you can say same focus, which is military technology or military support. So we can say that they also involved in the Korean War, where they are the one who support North Korea in that time, who hold the communist leadership also, and fight South Korea and US that time. And they are the one who can say trying to winning over Western bloc in terms of economic and technology. And we know that time it is very famous where USSR fight over US in terms of a nuclear technology, where you can say that USA is the first one who find and successfully create a nuclear bomb that time. So I think that's all for me. Explain about the parties involved in the Cold War. So I'll pass to the next presenter to discuss more about the topic. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zainab Binti Basir, and I will talk about suggestion or recommendation, which is provide ideas to ensure that the initiative could be implemented and continued. There are 4 suggestions that I will explain it one by one. The first point, rebalance weapons ownership between them. Since the issue of ownership and rest in the creation of nuclear weapons is so concerning due to the greatness of their respective weapons technology, there is a clear competition. As a result, this balance must go through negotiations between the 2 parties in order to know the status of the process and avoid the threats made. Meanwhile, they can improve the quality of the weapons in terms of accuracy and nuclear sharpness based on the agreed upon agreement. The second point focuses on economic developments. The US and Soviet Union have adopted economic systems that differ from one another. Following World War II, the US replaced other Western powers such as Britain, France, and Germany as the world's hegemonic power. This is because following the end of the World War II, European powers were forced to focus on the economic developments of the countries which had been weakened by the war. As a result, focusing on the economy, such as establishing good trade relations with other countries, is an important initiative to further expand the economy. Thus, focusing on the economy provides numerous advantages. And the third point, ideological understanding. It is undeniable that ideological difference between the US and the Soviet Union caused distrust between the two powers, exacerbating the American-Soviet conflict. As a result, ideological understanding is also important in this context in order to establish good relations and avoid the occurrence of real war. Thus, the ideological conflict between communism and democracy, which could have previously been compromised by the two countries, eventually became a factor that brought tensions in American-Soviet relations, as both competed to become more powerful and influential after World War II, which is 1939 until 1945. And the last point is increased prosperity through market expansion and extension, and eventually the unification of civil and political rights. Many people expected that after the Cold War there would be peace, tranquility, increased prosperity in market expansion and extension, and eventually the unification of civil and political rights. There will be a new world order, and it will be liberal. The United States will hold the highest position in international politics. It can choose whether to be corporate in the US, and if it does not, it can be confident that non-liberal states will not oppose it. It will be able to keep its bond holdings in the international market. Other market transactions, it is true, will be beyond any state's control. However, they are unlikely to conflict with the interests of the United Nations and Western Europe in finance, investment, and trade, and they will discipline other governments. The need to support national security regimes to limit the influence of socialist powers will fade, and it will be easier to promote liberal democracies and the civil society. Democracy will be a safe ally, and because regimes like this are not at war with each other, armed conflict will be reduced. There will be hegemony if hegemony was a fit between material configurations, including military power, and prevalent collective image of world order, including certain norms, and a set of institutions that govern the order. Alternatives to liberal capitalism and democracy have run out, and war may be replaced. There was even talk of end to history and a long new peace. Politically, the world will be a smarter place. That's all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, liberalism was greatly recognized as a political ideology where majority of the nation formed based on liberal democratic principle. It also provides rational framework for states' interaction through international organization. It also affected the way in which states act in matters of security in establishment of international institutes. An uncountable violent power are the fundamental threat to individual freedom and must be restrained at domestic and international level. Global peaceful order is only possible through liberal democracy and liberal capitalism. Today, liberalism is not a theory describing a dream world of peace and happiness, but more it provides response in realism, firmly rooted in evidence and a deep theoretical tradition. That's all from us. Thank you.